The dust clouds followed James Morrison's horse as he rode into Cedar Falls. The town looked tired, like an old man who had worked too hard for too long. Wooden buildings lined the main street, some paint peeled off the walls. A few windows had cracks running through them like spiderwebs. James pulled his hat down to block the afternoon sun. He had been riding for 3 days, his back hurt. His throat felt dry as sand. The horse needed water and rest. So did he. He was not a young man anymore. At 42, gray streaks ran through his dark hair. Lines marked his face from years of working outside. His hands were rough and scarred. He had been a lawman for 15 years. Before that, he worked on ranches and farms. James had come to Cedar Falls for one reason. He needed a wife. Living alone was getting harder. His small house felt empty. Cooking and cleaning took time he did not have. Winter nights were cold and lonely. A man his age should have a family. He should have someone to talk to when the day ended. The problem was simple. There were not many unmarried women in the places where he worked. Most frontier towns had more men than women. The few single ladies usually married quickly. James spent his days chasing outlaws and keeping peace. He did not have time to court anyone properly. That was why he came to Cedar Falls. Someone told him about Mrs. Patterson's boarding house. She took in unmarried women who came west looking for husbands. It was a business arrangement. Nothing romantic about it. Men came from nearby towns to meet the women. If two people liked each other, they could make a deal. James tied his horse to a post outside Patterson's place. The building was bigger than most in town, 2 stories high with a wide front porch. White paint covered the walls, but it looked fresh. Someone took care of this place. He walked up the wooden steps. His boots made heavy sounds on the porch floor. Through the front window he could see people inside. Women in their best dresses, men in clean shirts and pants. Everyone trying to look their finest. James looked down at his own clothes. His shirt was wrinkled from the long ride. Dirt covered his pants and boots. He had not shaved in 2 days. Stubble covered his jaw. He probably smelled like horse and sweat. He almost turned around and left. These people would think he was some wild man from the mountains. But then he remembered his empty house, the cold dinners, the quiet evenings with no one to talk to. James knocked on the door. A large woman opened it. She had gray hair pulled, back tight. Her dress was dark blue with small white flowers. She looked him up and down like she was buying a horse. "You must be Morrison," she said. "I'm Mrs. Patterson. Come in, but wipe your feet first." James cleaned his boots on the mat. He took off his hat. Mrs. Patterson led him into a big room. About 20 people stood around talking. Half were men, half were women. The men wore their Sunday clothes. They had slicked back hair and nervous smiles. They talked too loud and laughed too much. James could tell they wanted to make good impressions. The women stood in small groups. They wore colorful dresses with ribbons and lace. Most were young, maybe 20 to 30 years old. They spoke quietly and glanced at the men when they thought no one was looking. "The arrangement is simple," Mrs. Patterson said to James. "You talk to whoever interests you. If you both agree, you can discuss terms. Marriage, work, living arrangements. Whatever you decide is your business. I just bring people together." James nodded. He understood business deals. This was just another kind of trade. "Most of my girls are good workers," Mrs. Patterson continued. "They can cook and clean and sew. Some can read and write. A few even have money saved up." She pointed around the room. "That's Mary in the green dress. She worked in a hotel back east, knows how to manage a household. The blonde girl by the window is Sarah. Her father was a store owner. She understands numbers and bookkeeping." Mrs. Patterson kept talking about each woman like she was selling cattle. She mentioned their ages, their skills, their backgrounds. James half listened. He was not looking for a business partner. He just wanted someone kind and honest to share his life. "And over there," Mrs. Patterson's voice dropped lower, "is Lily Whitmore." James looked where she pointed. In the far corner sat a young woman by herself. She looked different from the others. Her skin was very pale, almost white. Her hair was so light it looked like silver. Even from across the room, he could see her eyes were pink or red. "She has that condition," Mrs. Patterson whispered. "You know, the one where people have no color. Been here 6 months. No one wants her, of course. I keep her because I feel sorry for her. Poor thing has nowhere else to go." The woman in the corner kept her head down. She held a book in her hands. While everyone else talked and laughed, she sat alone. Her dress was simple and dark. No ribbons or fancy buttons. She looked like she was trying to disappear. James watched her for a moment. Something about her reminded him of himself. He had always been an outsider too. Different from other people. He never fit in with crowds or social groups. "Pick any woman here," one of the men called out with a loud laugh. They're all desperate enough to say yes. The other men laughed. Some of the women looked hurt or angry. The pale woman in the corner seemed to shrink even smaller. James felt his jaw clench. He did not like bullies. He had spent years protecting people from men who thought they could say or do whatever they wanted. He walked across the room toward the corner. People stopped talking as he passed. They stared at his dirty clothes and unshaved face. He did not care what they thought. The young woman looked up as he approached. Her eyes were indeed pink, but they were also intelligent and alert. She had a pretty face, though very different from what most people expected. "Miss Whitmore?" James said quietly. She nodded but did not speak. Her fingers gripped the book tighter. "I'm James Morrison. I wondered if we might talk for a few minutes." Lily stared at him like he might be playing a cruel joke. She glanced around the room. Everyone was watching them now. The conversations had stopped. "You want to talk to me?" she asked. Her voice was soft but clear. "Yes, ma'am, if you don't mind." She closed her book and stood up slowly. James noticed she was taller than most women, probably 5.5 feet. She moved gracefully despite her obvious nervousness. "We could sit on the porch," James suggested. "Might be quieter out there." Lily nodded and followed him outside. Behind them, the room exploded with whispers and comments. James heard someone say, "What is that crazy lawman doing?" Another voice said, "Maybe he feels sorry for her too." On the porch, they sat in wooden chairs. The afternoon sun was getting lower. A gentle breeze moved through the air. It felt good after the stuffy room inside. "You really want to talk to me?" Lily asked again. "Not the other ladies?" "I want to talk to you," James said simply. For the first time, she looked directly at him. Her pink eyes studied his face like she was trying to solve a puzzle. "Why?" she asked. James looked at Lily's question. Why did he want to talk to her? He could have picked any of the other women. They were prettier by most people's standards. They would be easier choices. No one would stare or whisper about them. "Because you're reading a book while everyone else is putting on a show," he said finally. Lily blinked in surprise. She had not expected that answer. "What book is it?" James asked. She held it up so he could see the cover. "Shakespeare, Hamlet." "That's not light reading." "No," she agreed. "But I like stories about people who don't fit in their world." James understood that feeling. He had never fit in anywhere either. Too rough for polite society. Too honest for politics. Too old to start over somewhere new. "I should tell you something," Lily said quietly. "I'm not like the other women here. I don't have money saved up. I can't offer you a big dowry or fancy things. And I look..." She gestured at her pale skin and light hair. "You look fine to me," James said. She stared at him again. "People say I look like a ghost or like I'm sick. Children sometimes run away when they see me." "Children run away from me too," James said. "Probably because I arrest their fathers for getting drunk and fighting." That made Lily smile a little. It was the first time James had seen her face change, expression. "Why are you here, Miss Whitmore?" he asked. "What brought you to Mrs. Patterson's place?" Lily was quiet for a moment. She looked out at the street where a few people walked by. Some glanced at the porch and whispered to each other. "My parents died last year," she said finally. "Fever took them both within a week. They left me the house, but I couldn't keep up with the payments. Had to sell it to pay their debts. No other family? An aunt back east. She said I could come live with her, but... Lily paused. She made it clear I would be a burden, a charity case. She said maybe out west I could find someone who needed a wife more than he cared about looks. James felt anger rise in his chest. What kind of family talked to a young woman that way, especially one who had just lost her parents? So you came here hoping to find a husband, he said. Hoping to find a place where I belong, she corrected. Marriage seemed like the only option. I can cook and clean and sew. I can read and write, and do numbers. I thought maybe someone would need those skills more than they minded my appearance. What kinds of books do you read? James asked. The question surprised her. All kinds. Poetry, stories, newspapers when I can get them. History. I taught myself some accounting from a book my father had. James was impressed. Most people in frontier towns could barely write their own names. Even he struggled with reading sometimes. Can you handle a gun? He asked. A gun? Lily looked confused. No. Why would I need to handle a gun? Living out here, it helps to know how to protect yourself. Especially if your husband's work takes him away from home sometimes. Lily was quiet for a long moment. Are you offering me a job, Mr. Morrison? Or something else? James realized he had been talking around the real question. He was not good with fancy words or romantic speeches. He had always been a direct man. I'm offering marriage, he said simply, if you're interested. Lily's eyes went wide. You're serious? I am. But you don't know me. We just met 20 minutes ago. I know enough, James said. You're educated. You're honest. You don't put on airs or try to be something you're not. That matters more to me than anything else. What about... She gestured at her appearance again. What about it? Most men want a pretty wife, someone they can show off to their friends. James thought about that. I'm not most men, and I don't have many friends to show off to anyway. Lily laughed despite herself. It was a nice sound, musical and genuine. This is crazy, she said. People don't get married after talking for 20 minutes. People do it all the time out here, James said. Arranged marriages, mail-order brides, partnerships for survival. It's not that unusual. But what if we don't like each other? What if it doesn't work? James had thought about that during his long ride to Cedar Falls. Then we figure it out as we go, like any married couple. Through the window behind them, they could hear voices from inside the boarding house. Someone was playing a piano. People were laughing and talking loudly. The social gathering was getting more lively. Tell me about your life, Lily said. What would I be getting into? James described his small house outside town. 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, a sitting room. Not fancy, but solid and warm. He told her about his work as a constable, the long hours, the dangers, the travel to different towns when problems arose. I won't lie to you, he said. It's not an easy life. The pay is decent, but not great. Sometimes I'm gone for days at a time. The house gets lonely. That's why you want a wife. Part of it, James admitted. But I also think 2 people working together can build something better than either one could manage alone. Lily nodded slowly. What would you expect from me? Help with the house, cooking, cleaning, that kind of thing. Maybe help with paperwork if you're willing. I'm not much good with writing reports and keeping records. What about children? James had thought about that too. If they come, they come. If not, that's fine too. I'm not getting married just to have sons. And what about love? Lily asked quietly. The question hung in the air between them. James was not sure how to answer. He had seen married couples who loved each other deeply. He had also seen couples who seemed to hate each other but stayed together anyway. I think love can grow between 2 people who respect each other, he said finally. I can't promise to love you tomorrow, but I can promise to treat you with kindness and respect, to be honest with you, to protect you, and provide for you the best I can. Lily was quiet for a long time. She looked out at the street again. A woman walked by with two small children. They looked happy together. A family. "What happens if I say yes?" she asked. "We go inside and tell Mrs. Patterson. She can arrange for a preacher to marry us. We could do it tomorrow if you want. Then you come home with me and we start figuring out how to be married. Just like that? Just like that?" Lily took a deep breath. "And if I say no? Then you say no. I'll finish my business here and ride home. You'll stay at Mrs. Patterson's until someone else comes along who interests you. How many other men have asked to marry me, Mr. Morrison?" James understood her point. This might be her only chance to leave the boarding house, to have a real home and family of her own. "I don't want you to say yes just because you think you have no other choice," he said. "And I don't want you to ask me just because you feel sorry for me." "I don't feel sorry for you," James said honestly. "I feel sorry for all those men in there who are too stupid to see what they're missing." That made Lily smile again. A real smile this time, not just a polite one. "You're very different from what I expected," she said. "What did you expect? Someone who would laugh at me like the others, or ignore me completely." "I've been laughed at plenty in my life," James said. "It's not much fun." They sat quietly for a few minutes. The sun was getting lower. Soon it would be time for dinner and the social gathering would end. People would pair off or leave alone. "Can I ask you something?" Lily said. "Sure. Why aren't you married already? A man your age, with a steady job. There must have been opportunities." James thought about the women he had known over the years. A few had interested him, but the timing was never right. His work made relationships difficult, and he had never been good at the games people played when they were courting. "Never found the right person," he said. "Never found someone who understood what my life is like." "And you think I would understand?" "I think you know what it's like to be different. To not fit in. That might help." Lily nodded slowly. She understood exactly what he meant. "If I married you," she said carefully, "would you be ashamed of me? Would you hide me away when people came to visit?" The question made James angry, but not at her. At all the people who had made her feel like something to be ashamed of. "I would be proud to call you my wife," he said firmly. "Anyone who had a problem with that could take it up with me." Lily looked at his serious face. She could tell he meant every word. "All right," she said quietly. "All right." "What?" "All right. I'll marry you, James Morrison." James felt a wave of relief and excitement. "You're sure?" "I'm sure. It's probably crazy, but I'm sure." They stood up from their chairs. Through the window they could see the party was still going strong, but for them, the evening had already been decided. "Should we go tell Mrs. Patterson?" James asked. Lily nodded. "Let's go shock some people." As they walked toward the door, James felt something he had not experienced in a long time. Hope. Maybe this strange arrangement would work out after all. The wedding took place the next morning in Mrs. Patterson's parlor. A traveling preacher happened to be in town, so he performed the ceremony. Only Mrs. Patterson and 2 other boarding house residents served as witnesses. The whole thing lasted less than 10 minutes. Lily wore a simple blue dress she had brought from back east. James had cleaned up and shaved, though his clothes were still wrinkled from travel. They spoke their vows in quiet voices while Mrs. Patterson dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief. "Well," the preacher said when it was over, "you're married. Now, may God bless your union." James and Lily looked at each other. They were strangers who had just promised to spend their lives together. It felt strange and scary and exciting all at once. After the ceremony, they gathered Lily's few belongings. She owned 2 dresses, some underclothes, a winter coat, and half a dozen books. Everything fit in one small trunk in a carpet bag. "That's all?" James asked. "I told you I don't have much," Lily said. She seemed embarrassed by how little she owned. "It's fine," James said quickly. "We'll get whatever else you need." Mrs. Patterson hugged Lily goodbye. "You write and let me know how you're getting along. she said, "and don't let anyone treat you poorly. You're a married woman now. That gives you standing in the community." James helped Lily up onto his horse. She had never ridden behind someone before, but she held on tight as they left Cedar Falls. The town grew smaller behind them, until it disappeared completely. The ride to James's place took 3 hours. They talked some during the journey, but mostly they were quiet. Both of them were thinking about what they had just done. Marriage was a big step, especially between two people who barely knew each other. "Tell me about your house," Lily said, as they rode through rolling hills covered with grass and wildflowers. "It's nothing fancy," James said. "I built it myself 5 years ago, 2 bedrooms, kitchen, sitting room. There's a well for water and a small barn for the horse. About an acre of land. Do you grow anything? Some vegetables, corn and beans?" "Mostly. I'm not much of a farmer, but it helps with food." As they came over a hill, Lily could see the house in the distance. It was small but looked solid. Wood frame with a stone chimney, a front porch with 2 chairs. Behind it sat a red barn that needed some paint. "It looks peaceful," Lily said. "It is. Sometimes too peaceful. Gets lonely during the long winter nights." James helped her down from the horse. Lily stood in front of her new home, her married home. The idea still seemed impossible. "Come on," James said, picking up her trunk. "Let me show you around." The inside of the house was clean but sparse. The sitting room had a sofa, 2 chairs, and a fireplace. The kitchen contained a wood stove, a table with 2 chairs, and some basic dishes and pots. Everything looked well made but plain. "The bedroom on the left is mine," James said, setting down her trunk. "I fixed up the other one for you. There's a bed and a dresser. A washstand, too." Lily peeked into both rooms. James's bedroom was simple. A bed, a chest of drawers, some clothes hanging on pegs. Her room was similar, but smaller. Someone had put fresh sheets on the bed and wildflowers in a jar on the dresser. "You picked the flowers?" she asked. "This morning before I came to get you," James said. He looked embarrassed about it. "They're beautiful. Thank you." They spent the rest of the day getting Lily settled. She unpacked her few belongings and put her books on a shelf in the sitting room. James showed her where he kept food and supplies. He explained how the stove worked and where to get water from the well. "I usually eat pretty simple meals," he said. "Beans and bread mostly, some meat when I can get it." "I can cook," Lily said. "Real meals with vegetables and seasoning. If you don't mind me using your supplies." "Use whatever you want. It's your house now, too." That evening, Lily made dinner while James took care of his horse. She found flour and salt and some preserved vegetables. It was not much, but she managed to make biscuits and a simple stew. When James came in from the barn, he stopped and sniffed the air. "Something smells good." "Just stew and biscuits," Lily said. She had set the table with plates and forks. A candle burned in the middle of the table. They sat down to eat together. It was their first meal as husband and wife. James took a bite of the stew and his eyes widened. "This is really good," he said. "Much better than anything I ever made." "Cooking for 2 is easier than cooking for 1, Lily said. "More reason to make an effort." They talked during dinner about small things, the weather, the area around the house, James's work schedule, normal conversation between 2 people getting to know each other. After dinner, they sat on the front porch as the sun went down. The evening air was cool and pleasant. Somewhere in the distance, a bird was singing. "It's quiet out here," Lily said. "Does that bother you?" "No. I like it. In town, there were always people talking and walking around. Sometimes a person needs peace and quiet to think." "What are you thinking about?" James asked. Lily was quiet for a moment. "How strange life is. Yesterday morning I woke up alone in Mrs. Patterson's boarding house. Tonight I'm sitting on the porch of my own home next to my husband. It doesn't seem real yet." "It feels real to me," James said. "Does it? Don't you think this is all a little crazy?" James considered the question. "Maybe. But a lot of good things start out seeming crazy." Over the next few days they settled into a routine. James left early in the morning to patrol his territory. Lily cleaned the house, tended the vegetable garden, and prepared meals. When James came home in the evening, they would eat dinner together and talk about their day. Lily proved to be an excellent housekeeper. She organized things James had never thought to organize. She mended his clothes and made curtains for the windows. She even started keeping track of household expenses in a small notebook. "You don't have to account for every penny," James told her one evening. "I like keeping records," Lily said. "It helps me understand how much things cost and where we might save money." James was impressed by her practical nature. She was not a romantic, dreamy type of woman. She approached marriage like a business partnership that could benefit both parties. But he also noticed she was very careful around him. Polite and respectful, but distant. She called him Mr. Morrison instead of James. She never touched him, accidentally while passing dishes at dinner. She seemed to be waiting for something, though he was not sure what. One evening after they had been married for a week, James brought up the subject. "You can call me James, you know," he said as they cleaned up after dinner. "Is that what you'd prefer?" Lily asked. "We're married. I think we can use first names." "All right, James." She tried it out. "That feels strange." "Why?" "I've never been married before. I don't know what the rules are." James understood. He had never been married either. They were both learning as they went along. "I don't think there are many rules," he said. "We just have to figure out what works for us." "What if we figure out that this doesn't work?" Lily asked quietly. It was a question James had been expecting. He knew she was still unsure about their arrangement, still waiting to see if he would change his mind about her. "Then we'll deal with that if it happens," he said. "But I don't think it will." "How can you be so sure?" "Because you make good stew and you don't complain when I track mud through the house." That made Lily smile. "Those are pretty low standards for a wife." "I have simple needs." The next week brought their first test. James had to travel to a neighboring town to investigate some cattle theft. He would be gone for 3 days. "Will, you be all right here alone?" he asked Lily the morning he left. "I think so. You said there's a rifle in the bedroom?" "Above the door frame, it's loaded." "Do you remember what I showed you about how to use it?" James had given Lily a basic lesson in shooting the week before. She was not comfortable with guns, but she was a quick learner. "Point and pull the trigger," she said. "Don't shoot unless I'm really in danger." "That's right. Hopefully you won't need it." James saddled his horse and packed supplies for the trip. Before he left, he turned to Lily. "This feels strange," he said. "What does?" "Leaving my wife at home, having someone to come back to." Lily's face softened. "I'll be here when you get back." "Promise?" "Promise." While James was gone, Lily kept busy. She cleaned the house thoroughly. She picked vegetables from the garden and preserved some for winter. She read one of her books and wrote a letter to Mrs. Patterson. But she also had time to think about her new life, about James, about whether this strange marriage might actually work. She had to admit that James was different from any man she had known. He treated her with respect and kindness. He did not seem bothered by her appearance. He appreciated her cooking and her help with household tasks. But did he care about her as a person? Or was she just a convenient solution to his domestic problems? On the third day, Lily was hanging laundry when she saw a horse approaching. Her heart jumped until she recognized James's figure in the saddle. He waved when he saw her. She waved back and felt a warm feeling she had not expected. Relief. Happiness. Like she had been holding her breath for 3 days and could finally breathe again. "How did it go?" she asked as he dismounted. "Caught the cattle thieves. 2 brothers from the next county. They're in jail now." "Good. Are you hungry?" "I made chicken and dumplings." "Chicken? Where did you get chicken?" "I walked to the neighbor's farm yesterday." Mrs. 3 weeks into their marriage, James came home with news that would change everything. "There's been trouble in town," he said as he sat down to dinner. "Someone's been stealing from the general store. 3rd time this month." Lily served him a plate of beef and potatoes. "What kind of things are being stolen?" Expensive items, jewelry, watches, fancy tools. Always taken at night when the store is closed. Any ideas who might be doing it? James shook his head. Could be anyone. Stranger passing through town, local person having money troubles. Hard to say without evidence. Have you looked at the store yourself? Twice. Can't find how they're getting in. No broken windows or forced doors, it's like they have a key. Lily was quiet while she ate. James could tell she was thinking about something. What is it? He asked. Could I come look at the store with you? James was surprised. Why would you want to do that? Sometimes a fresh set of eyes notices things others miss, and I'm good at noticing details. It's not really proper for wives to get involved in police work. Is it proper for thieves to keep stealing from honest people? James had to smile at that. She had a point. All right, he said. Tomorrow morning we'll ride into town together, but you'll need to stay close to me. Some folks might not like seeing you there. The next morning they rode to Cedar Falls together. It was Lily's first time back since their wedding. She noticed people staring as they passed through the main street. Some whispered to each other and pointed. Does that bother you? James asked, seeing her discomfort. I'm used to it, Lily said, but it still hurts sometimes. The general store belonged to a man named William Tucker. He was about 50 years old with gray hair and worried eyes. When James and Lily walked in, Tucker looked confused. Morning, Morrison, he said. Who's this with you? This is my wife, Lily. Tucker's eyes widened as he took in Lily's pale appearance. Your wife? Well, I'll be pleased to meet you, ma'am. Mr. Tucker, Lily said politely. I'm sorry about your troubles. Thank you kindly. Don't know what I'm going to do if this keeps up. Can't afford to lose much more merchandise. James walked around the store looking at doors and windows. He had done this before and found nothing unusual. Lily stood quietly near the front counter, but her eyes were moving constantly. She studied every corner, every shadow, every detail. Mr. Tucker, she said after a few minutes, where exactly do you keep the expensive items? In the back room, Tucker said. Behind the counter there. I have a special cabinet with a lock. May I see it? Tucker looked at James, who nodded. They followed Tucker into the back room. It was smaller than the main store area. Shelves lined the walls. In one corner sat a wooden cabinet with a sturdy lock. This is where I keep the watches and jewelry, Tucker explained. The lock is good quality, cost me $20. Lily examined the cabinet closely. She ran her fingers along the edges and looked at the hinges. Then she knelt down and looked at the floor around it. James, she said quietly, come look at this. James knelt beside her. Lily pointed to some small scratches on the wooden floor near the cabinet. See these marks? They're fresh. And they go in a straight line toward that wall. James looked where she pointed. The scratches led to a section of wall that looked just like all the others. What are you thinking? He asked. Help me move this cabinet away from the wall. James and Tucker pushed the heavy cabinet aside. Behind it, they could see that one of the wall boards was slightly loose. Well, I'll be damned, Tucker said. James pushed on the loose board. It swung inward like a small door. Behind it was an opening just big enough for a person to crawl through. There's your entrance, Lily said. James stuck his head through the opening. On the other side was the alley. Behind the store, someone had carefully removed boards from both the inside and outside walls, creating a hidden passage. Clever, James said. They could come and go without anyone seeing them. Take their time picking the lock on the cabinet. Who could have done this? Tucker asked. Someone who knows this building well, Lily said. Someone who had time to work on it without being disturbed. James was already thinking the same thing. Tucker, who else has access to this store? Just me and my assistant, Bobby Martin. He's worked here for 2 years. Where is Bobby today? Called in sick this morning. 3rd time this month. James and Lily looked at each other. That was quite a coincidence. We need to have a talk with young Bobby, James said. They found Bobby Martin at home in a small room above the barber shop. He was not sick. When James knocked on his door, Bobby answered looking perfectly healthy. Constable Morrison, Bobby said nervously. What brings you here? Need to ask you some questions about the thefts at Tucker's store. Bobby's face went pale. I don't know anything about that. Then you won't mind if we take a look around your room. Bobby stepped aside, reluctantly. James and Lily entered the small space. It did not take long to find what they were looking for. Hidden under Bobby's bed was a box containing 3 stolen watches and a necklace. Want to explain this? James asked, holding up one of the watches. Bobby's shoulders slumped. I needed the money. My mother's sick back east. Needs medicine. I can't afford on what Tucker pays me. So you decided to steal from the man who gave you a job. I thought he wouldn't miss a few small things. He has so much inventory. James arrested Bobby and took him to the jail in town. Lily waited outside while he filled out the paperwork. How did you know to look at the floor? James asked as they rode home later. The cabinet was the obvious target, Lily explained. But it was heavy. If someone moved it regularly, there would be marks on the floor. Fresh scratches meant recent movement. Most people wouldn't think of that. Most people don't spend their time noticing details others miss. James was impressed by his wife's observation skills. She had solved in 20 minutes what he had been working on for weeks. You're good at this, he said. At what? Investigation. Figuring out puzzles. Lily looked pleased but also surprised. You really think so? I know so. You saw things I completely missed. Over the next few weeks, James began asking Lily's opinion on other cases. A missing horse that turned up in a neighbor's pasture. Some vandalism at the schoolhouse. Small problems. But Lily always had useful ideas. She had a different way of looking at situations. Where James thought about who might have committed a crime, Lily thought about how and why. She noticed patterns and details that escaped him. You have a gift for this, James told her one evening after she had helped him track down some stolen chickens. I've always been good at watching people, Lily said. When you look different like I do, you learn to read faces and body language. You can tell when someone is lying or nervous or hiding something. That's a useful skill for a lawman's wife. Is that what I am? A lawman's wife? You're my wife, James said, and my partner if you want to be. The word partner made Lily smile. She liked the idea of being useful, of having skills that mattered. There's just one problem, she said. What's that? People in town already think we're a strange couple. If they see me helping with police work, they'll really have something to talk about. James had been thinking about that too. In most places, women did not get involved in law enforcement. It would cause gossip and criticism. Let them talk, he said finally. I care more about solving crimes than what people think. You're sure? I'm sure. Besides, we don't have to advertise what we're doing. We can be discreet about it. From that day forward, Lily became James's unofficial assistant. When he had a difficult case, he would discuss it with her over dinner. She would ask questions that helped him think through the problem differently. Sometimes she would ride with him to investigate crimes, though they were careful about when and where. People were slowly getting used to seeing them together, but they did not want to push too hard too fast. Lily discovered she enjoyed the mental challenge of police work. Each case was like a puzzle to solve. She liked using her mind to help people and catch criminals. James discovered that having a partner made his job easier and more satisfying. Lily saw things he missed. She thought of possibilities he would not have considered. Together they made a good team. I never expected this when I married you, Lily said one evening as they reviewed the details of a burglary case. What did you expect? To keep house and cook meals. Maybe help with paperwork. I never thought I'd be solving crimes. Is that a problem? No, Lily said firmly. It's the best part of being married to you. James felt a warm feeling in his chest. Not just because Lily was helpful with his work, but because she seemed genuinely happy. For the first time since he had known her, she looked like she truly belonged somewhere. We make a good team, he said. Yes, Lily agreed. We do. The people of Cedar Falls were indeed talking about the strange couple. The lawman and his pale wife who rode around together asking questions. Some folks disapproved. Others were curious. A few were beginning to respect what they were accomplishing. But James and Lily were too busy to worry much about gossip. They had found something together that neither had expected. Not just a marriage of convenience, but a real partnership. They were starting to understand that their differences made them stronger, not weaker. And they were just beginning to realize that what they had built together might be the foundation for something. 2 months after their wedding, James and Lily faced their biggest challenge yet. It started with horses disappearing from farms around Cedar Falls. 3 horses in 2 weeks, all taken during the night. This is different from the petty thefts we've been dealing with, James told Lily over breakfast. Horses are valuable. This is serious crime. Any witnesses? Lily asked, pouring him more coffee. One farmer saw riders heading north toward the reservation, said there were 2 or 3 of them. Lily set down the coffee pot. She could tell from James's tone that this was going to be complicated. The town council met yesterday, James continued. They're convinced the Lakota are behind it. Want me to ride up there and arrest someone. Are you convinced? James was quiet for a moment. I don't know. The Lakota have been peaceful for years. It doesn't make sense they'd suddenly start stealing horses. But the council wants you to arrest them anyway? They want results, and they want them fast. Mayor Hopkins is up for re-election next month. He needs to look like he's solving problems. Lily understood the situation. It was easier to blame outsiders than to look for the real criminals. The Lakota reservation was 20 miles north of town. The Native Americans there kept to themselves mostly, but white folks were always suspicious of them. What are you going to do? She asked. Investigate properly. Look for real evidence instead of jumping to conclusions. Over the next few days, James and Lily visited the farms where horses had been stolen. They examined the areas where the animals had been kept. They talked to neighbors and looked for tracks or other clues. What they found did not point toward the Lakota. Look at these horseshoe prints, Lily said, kneeling in the dirt outside the 3rd farm. They're from shod horses. The Lakota horses aren't usually shod. James knelt beside her. You're right, and look at this. He pointed to boot prints in the soft earth. Those are white man's boots, expensive ones. Someone wants people to think the Lakota did this, Lily said. That's what I'm thinking too. They followed the tracks for several miles before losing them on rocky ground. But they had learned enough to know this was not a simple case of horse theft. When they returned to town, Mayor Hopkins was waiting in James's office. He was a large man with a red face and expensive clothes. Behind him stood 2 other town council members. Morrison, Hopkins said, what progress have you made on these horse thefts? Still investigating, James said, looking at all possibilities. What's to investigate? The tracks lead north toward the reservation. That's all the evidence we need. Actually, the evidence suggests something different, James said carefully. Hopkins's face got redder. What are you talking about? James explained what he and Lily had found. The shod horses, the boot prints, the signs that pointed away from the Lakota. That's all speculation, Hopkins said dismissively. We need action, not theories. We need to arrest the right people, James said firmly. The right people are whoever. The voters think did it, Hopkins said, and the voters think it was Indians. One of the council members, a banker named Crawford, spoke up. Morrison, people are scared. They want protection. If you can't provide it, maybe we need a new constable. James felt his jaw clench. He had dealt with political pressure before, but never quite this direct. I'll provide protection by catching the real criminals, he said. You have 3 days, Hopkins said. Bring us someone from the reservation, or we'll find someone who will. After the men left, James sat heavily in his chair. Lily had been listening from the next room. They want you to arrest innocent people, she said. They want me to arrest convenient people. What will you do? James looked out the window toward the north, where the Lakota reservation lay beyond. The hills. Keep investigating, find the real thieves. And if you can't do it in 3 days, then I'll probably lose my job. Lily felt a chill run through her. James's job was their livelihood. Without it, they would have no income, no house, no future together. There has to be something we're missing, she said. Some clue we haven't found yet. That evening, they spread out all their notes and sketches. On the kitchen table, Maps of the area, descriptions of the stolen horses, timelines of when each theft occurred. What if we're thinking about this backwards? Lily said suddenly. What do you mean? We're trying to figure out who stole the horses. What if we figure out why they stole them first? James considered that. They stole them to sell them. Horse thieves always sell what they steal. But where? You can't just ride into any town with 3 obviously stolen horses. Someone would recognize them. Unless you had a buyer already lined up, James said slowly. Exactly. Someone who knew. They were stolen but didn't care. Someone who could move them quickly to someplace far away. James felt excitement building. The railroad comes through Millerville twice a week. That's only 30 miles east of here. If someone wanted to ship horses quickly to distant markets, they'd need to get them to the railroad, James finished. And they'd need someone on the inside to help with the paperwork. The next morning, James and Lily rode to Millerville. It was a bigger town than Cedar Falls, with more businesses and more strangers coming and going. The railroad station was busy. Freight cars were being loaded with cattle and grain bound for markets back east. James introduced himself to the station. Manager, a thin man named Garrett. Any horse shipments going out recently? James asked. We ship horses all the time, Garrett said. A lot of ranchers around here. Anyone shipping horses who doesn't usually ship horses? Garrett thought about it. There was something unusual last week. Man brought in 3 horses to ship to Chicago. Paid in cash, didn't want to give his real name. What name did he give? Smith. John Smith. Real original. Can you describe him? Average height, brown hair, expensive clothes. Had a gold watch chain. Spoke like an educated man. Anyone with him? Young fellow. Looked nervous. Kept looking around like he expected trouble. James and Lily exchanged glances. This sounded promising. The man with the gold watch, Lily said. Did he seem familiar with railroad procedures? Now that you mention it, yeah. He knew exactly what paperwork to fill out, knew the shipping rates without asking. Someone who worked for the railroad before, James suggested. Could be. Or someone who ships things regularly. They thanked Garrett and walked back toward their horses. As they passed the local hotel, Lily grabbed James's arm. Look, she whispered. Standing outside the hotel was a man in expensive clothes with a gold watch chain. Next to him was a younger man who kept glancing around nervously. That's them, James said quietly. They watched as the 2 men talked to a third person. James recognized him immediately. It was Crawford, the banker from the town council. Well, I'll be damned, James muttered. They followed the 3 men discreetly as they walked to a livery stable at the edge of town. Inside the stable were 6 horses, including 3 that James recognized from the descriptions given by the farmers. We've got them, Lily whispered. But before James could move, they heard voices coming their way. The 3 men were walking back, toward the stable entrance. Get the horses ready for the next shipment, Crawford was saying. I want them gone by tomorrow. What about Morrison? The nervous young man asked. He's been asking questions. Morrison won't be a problem much longer, Crawford said with confidence. Hopkins will fire him if he doesn't arrest some Indians by tomorrow. And then we'll have a new constable, someone more cooperative. James felt anger boiling up inside him. Crawford was not just stealing horses. He was manipulating the political situation to get rid of anyone who might catch him. After the men left, James and Lily crept closer to examine the horses. All 6 matched descriptions of recently stolen animals. How do we handle this? Lily asked. Carefully, James said. Crawford has influence in town. We need solid evidence. We have the horses. We need to catch them in the act. Prove they're the ones doing the stealing. They spent the rest of the day watching the stable. As evening approached, Crawford and his partners prepared to move the horses. This is it, James said. Stay back and be ready to ride for help if something goes wrong. I'm staying with you, Lily said firmly. This could be dangerous. We're partners, remember? James wanted to argue, but there was no time. The horse thieves were already moving. As Crawford's group led the stolen horses out of town, James and Lily followed at a distance. The thieves were heading back toward Cedar Falls, probably to steal more animals. Near midnight, they watched as the group approached another farm. James had been right. They were going to steal more horses and blame it on the Lakota. Now, James whispered. He stepped out of the shadows with his gun drawn. Nobody move. You're all under arrest. Crawford spun around, reaching for his own weapon. The nervous young man dropped the lead rope he was holding and raised his hands. The third man tried to run but tripped over his own feet. Drop your weapons, James commanded. For a moment it looked like Crawford might try to fight. Then he saw Lily emerge from the darkness, also holding a rifle. You're outnumbered, Crawford, James said. Give it up. Slowly, Crawford raised his hands. As James tied up the prisoners, Lily gathered the stolen horses. Hopkins isn't going to like this, Crawford said bitterly. You just arrested a town council member. The weeks following Crawford's arrest brought changes to James and Lily's life. Some people in town treated James with new respect. They had seen him solve a difficult case through careful work instead of taking shortcuts. But others, especially Crawford's friends, viewed him with suspicion and anger. Mrs. Patterson sent me a letter, Lily said one evening, holding up an envelope. She heard about the horse thieves. She's proud of what we accomplished. James looked up from cleaning his rifle. What else does she say? She mentioned that some of the other women from the boarding house have gotten married. Mary wed a farmer from the next county. Sarah married a store owner. Do you miss that life? The boarding house? Lily considered the question. I miss having other women to talk to sometimes, but I don't miss feeling like I was waiting for my life to begin. Your life has begun now? Yes, she said simply. I feel useful here, important, like what I do matters. James set down his rifle. It does matter. You've helped solve 3 cases in the past month. The town is safer because of your work. Our work? Lily corrected. They had fallen into this habit of sharing credit for everything they accomplished. It was one of many small changes in their relationship over the past few months. Another change was how comfortable they had become with each other. Lily no longer called him Mr. Morrison or acted like a polite stranger. She teased him about his cooking and argued with him when she disagreed with his ideas. James liked seeing this more relaxed side of her personality. I was thinking, James said, maybe you'd like to visit Mrs. Patterson sometime. See how she's doing. That's kind of you to suggest, but I'd rather spend the time working on our cases. Don't you want to visit your friends? Lily was quiet for a moment. Mrs. Patterson was kind to me, but the other women, they weren't really friends. They were polite, but they kept their distance. I think my appearance made them uncomfortable. James felt the familiar anger he experienced whenever he thought about how people had treated Lily. Their loss, he said firmly. Do you really believe that? I know that. You're the smartest, most observant person I've ever met. Anyone who can't see past your appearance to recognize that as a fool, Lily smiled. You're prejudiced, you're my husband. I'm honest. I was drawn to you before I knew you were smart. I liked that you were reading while everyone else was performing. Why did that matter to you? James thought about how to explain. It meant you were comfortable being yourself, not trying to be what you thought other people wanted. I had given up trying to be what other people wanted, Lily said. It never worked anyway. Good. I fell in love with who you really are, not some pretend version. The words slipped out before James realized what he had said. Both of them froze. It was the first time either had used the word love. Did you mean that? Lily asked quietly. James felt his heart beating faster. He had not planned to say it, but now that the words were out, he realized they were true. Yes, he said. I meant it. Lily's eyes filled with tears, but she was smiling. I love you too, James. They looked at each other across the kitchen table. 6 months ago they had been strangers. Now they were partners, companions, and something more. When did you know? James asked. That I loved you? I think it was during the horse thief case, when you risked your job to arrest the real criminals, instead of blaming innocent people. I realized you were the most honorable man I'd ever known. For me, it was earlier, James said. The day you solved the general store robbery. I watched you figure out that puzzle, and I thought, this woman is remarkable. Then I started noticing other things. How you hummed while you cooked. How you organized my papers so I could find things. How you made this house feel like a real home. I was so scared you would get tired of me, Lily admitted, that you would decide I wasn't worth the trouble people gave you for marrying me. Never, James said firmly. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. They reached across the table and held hands. It was a simple gesture, but it felt significant, like they were making a new promise to each other. What happens now? Lily asked. Now we keep building our life together. Keep solving cases. Keep learning about each other. I'd like that. Over the following weeks, their relationship deepened in ways both large and small. They talked more openly about their feelings. They shared childhood stories and dreams for the future. They began making plans that extended beyond just getting by day to day. I've been thinking about expanding the house, James said one morning as they ate breakfast. Expanding it how? Maybe add another room, a proper office where we could keep case files and maps, somewhere to work on investigations. Lily's face lit up. Our own detective office? Something like that. What do you think? I think it's a wonderful idea. They spent the next few evenings sketching plans for the new room. It would be built onto the back of the house with windows for good light and shelves for books and files. We could put a big table in the center, Lily suggested, for spreading out maps and evidence, and a board on the wall for tracking suspects and clues, like real detectives have in the big cities. James liked seeing Lily excited about their plans. She had ideas for organizing everything efficiently, charts for tracking different types of crimes, files for keeping witness statements, systems for following up on old cases. You've thought about this a lot, he said. I love this work, James. I love using my mind to solve problems. I love helping people get justice. Even though some folks in town disapprove of a woman doing police work, especially because they disapprove, Lily said with a grin. I like proving them wrong. Their personal relationship was not the only thing growing stronger. Their professional partnership was becoming more sophisticated too. They developed techniques for interviewing witnesses, methods for examining crime scenes, ways of tracking down leads that other lawmen might miss. Word began to spread to neighboring towns about the unusual constable and his wife who solved difficult cases. James received requests to investigate problems in other communities. A missing person case in Millerville, a series of barn fires near Riverside, a dispute over cattle rustling that local authorities could not resolve. We're getting quite a reputation, Lily said one evening as James read through the latest request for help. We are. People are starting to trust our methods. Does that bother you? That they think of us as a team instead of just you as the constable? James considered the question. In traditional law enforcement, the constable worked alone or with male deputies. Having a wife as a partner was unusual, to say the least. No, he said finally. It doesn't bother me. We are a team. I'm better at this job because of you. And I'm better at life because of you. They were interrupted by a knock at the door. James opened it to find a young man he did not recognize. Constable Morrison? I'm Tom Bradley from Riverside. Our sheriff sent me to ask for your help. What's the problem? Someone's been setting fires, burned down 3 barns in the past 2 weeks. We can't figure out who's doing it or why. James looked at Lily, who nodded slightly. When do you need us there? James asked. As soon as possible. There's talk of forming a vigilante group if the sheriff can't solve it soon. We'll leave in the morning. After Tom Bradley left, James and Lily spent the evening packing for the trip. It would be their first major case outside their own territory. Are you nervous? Lily asked as she packed their investigation supplies. A little. You? A little excited? A little scared? What if we can't solve it? Then we'll do our best and learn from the experience. What if the people there don't accept me helping with the investigation? Then they'll miss out on having the best detective in 3 counties working on their case. Lily laughed. You're exaggerating. I'm not. You see things other people miss. You ask questions that lead to answers. You're naturally gifted at this work. I never thought I'd have a gift for anything. You have gifts for lots of things. Investigation is just one of them. As they prepared for bed, Lily felt a sense of anticipation she had never experienced before. 6 months ago, she had been a lonely woman with no prospects and no purpose. Now she was part of a team, a partnership, a marriage built on love, respect, and shared goals. "James," she said as they settled into their respective bedrooms. They still slept separately, though the distance between them felt less important than it once had. "Yes? Thank you." "For what?" "For seeing something in me that no one else ever saw. For making me feel valuable." "Thank you for making me feel complete." They said goodnight and went to their rooms. But both of them lay awake for a while, thinking about how much their lives had changed. How a marriage that started as a practical arrangement had grown into something neither of them had expected. Love had crept up on them gradually. Not the passionate, dramatic kind of love that people wrote poems about, but something deeper and more lasting. The love that came from truly knowing another person and choosing to build a life together. Tomorrow they would face new challenges. A difficult case in an unfamiliar town. People who might not accept their unusual partnership. Problems that would test their skills and their relationship. But tonight they were content. They had found in each other not just love, but purpose. They had created something together that was bigger than either of them alone. They were ready for whatever came next. The barn fire case in Riverside took James and Lily away from home for a week. They solved it successfully, discovering that a disgruntled former farmhand had been setting the fires for revenge. The local sheriff was grateful, and word of their success spread even further. When they returned to Cedar Falls, something felt different. James noticed it first as they rode down the main street. "There are more strangers in town than usual," he said quietly to Lily. She looked around and saw what he meant. Rough-looking men loitered outside the saloon. Others sat on benches along the street watching people go by with calculating eyes. "Drifters?" she asked. "Maybe, or something worse." They stopped at the general store to check for mail and supplies. Mr. Tucker greeted them with obvious relief. "Morrison, thank goodness you're back," he said. "We've had trouble while you were gone." "What kind of trouble?" "A group of men rode into town 3 days ago, maybe 8 or 10 of them. They've been drinking and causing problems. Yesterday they got into a fight with some local men." "Anyone hurt?" "Black eyes and bloody noses mostly. But folks are scared. These aren't ordinary drifters. They have money, and good horses. And they're asking questions about you." James felt a chill run down his spine. "What kind of questions?" "About your house, your routine, where you go and when." Tucker lowered his voice. "And they've been asking about your wife." Lily stepped closer to James. "Asking what about me?" "About how you look, where you came from." One of them seemed real interested when someone mentioned your condition. James's jaw clenched. "Who's their leader?" "Big man with a scar across his left cheek. Calls himself Kane. He's the one asking most of the questions." After leaving the store, James and Lily rode home quickly. James wanted to check their property and make sure everything was secure. "Why would they be interested in me specifically?" Lily asked as they approached their house. "I don't know, but I don't like it." They spent the evening checking all the locks and windows. James loaded extra ammunition for his weapons and showed Lily where he kept additional guns hidden around the house. "Are you expecting a fight?" she asked. "I'm preparing for one. Men like that don't ask questions about lawmen's wives unless they're planning something." That night James barely slept. Every sound outside made him alert. When morning came, he decided to ride into town and confront this Kane character directly. "I'm coming with you," Lily said. "No, it's safer if you stay here. James, we're partners. We face things together." "Not this time. This isn't about solving a case. This is about dangerous men who might want to hurt you." Lily wanted to argue, but she could see the fear in James's eyes. Not fear for himself, but fear for her. "All right," she said reluctantly. "But you be careful." James found Kane and his men at the saloon. They were exactly what he had expected. Hard-faced men with guns on their hips and trouble in their eyes. Kane was indeed a big man, probably 6.5 feet tall with broad shoulders. The scar on his face ran from his left ear to the corner of his mouth. When James walked into the saloon, Kane smiled. "You must be Constable Morrison," Kane said in a voice like gravel. "That's right, and you're Kane. Word gets around. Sit down, Morrison. Let me buy you a drink." "I'll stand. What's your business in Cedar Falls?" Kane's smile widened. "Just passing. Through. Beautiful country around here, interesting people too. Time to move on then. You and your men aren't welcome here. That's not very hospitable. Especially when we're such admirers of your work." James felt the danger in the air like electricity before a storm. The other men in the saloon had gone quiet. Even the bartender was staying well back. "My work? We heard about how you caught those horse thieves. Very impressive. You and your unusual wife." The way Kane said unusual made James's blood boil. "Leave my wife out of this." "Oh, but she's the interesting part. A woman who looks like no other woman. Some might say she's quite a curiosity." James's hand moved closer to his gun. "I'm telling you once more. Take your men and leave town." Kane stood up slowly. Even sitting down, he had been tall. Standing, he was enormous. "We'll leave when we're ready to leave," he said. "And when we do, we might take a souvenir with us." The threat was clear. James drew his gun in one smooth motion, pointing it at Kane's chest. "Touch my wife and I'll kill you," he said quietly. Kane laughed. "Relax, Morrison. We're just talking. No need for violence. Yet." James kept his gun drawn as he backed toward the door. Kane and his men watched him go, all of them smiling like wolves. When James got home, he found Lily pacing in the kitchen. "What did you learn?" she asked immediately. James told her about the conversation with Kane, about the threat, about the way Kane had looked when he mentioned taking a souvenir. "He wants to kidnap me," Lily said. "It was not a question. That's what I think, yes. But why? What would be the point?" James had been thinking about that during his ride home. Some men collect things they think are rare or unusual. Animals, artifacts, people. He struggled to find words that would not hurt her. "A curiosity," Lily finished. "Something to show off or sell to someone else who collects curiosities." The idea made James sick. "We need to get you somewhere safe." "Where?" "If they're determined to take me, they'll follow wherever we go. I could ask the sheriff in Millerville to keep you safe while I deal with Kane." "No." Lily's voice was firm. "I won't run and hide while you face this alone. Lily, these are dangerous men. They won't hesitate to hurt you. And they won't hesitate to hurt you either. We face this together or not at all." James knew that stubborn look in her eyes. There was no point in arguing. "Then we need a plan," he said. They spent the rest of the day preparing. James sent messages to trusted neighbors asking them to watch for Kane's men. He checked all their weapons and ammunition. Lily prepared supplies in case they needed to leave quickly. "What if we turn this around?" Lily said as they ate a simple dinner. "What do you mean?" "What if instead of waiting for them to come after me, we use their interest to trap them?" James did not like the sound of that. "Explain." "They want me because I'm unusual. What if we let them think they can take me easily? Set up an ambush?" "Absolutely not. I won't use you as bait. It might be our best chance to end this before someone gets hurt. Someone will get hurt. You. Not if we plan it carefully." James shook his head. "No. Too dangerous." But that night, as he lay awake listening for sounds of intruders, James began to think about Lily's idea. Kane and his men had the advantage right now. They could strike when and where they chose. But if James could control the situation, choose the time and place for a confrontation. The next morning brought bad news. Tom Bradley, the young man from Riverside, arrived with word that Kane's men had been asking questions in other towns too. "They've been to Millerville and Riverside," Tom said, "asking about you and your wife everywhere they go." "What are people Telling them? Some folks are too scared to say anything. Others are telling them whatever they want to know. So much for keeping Lily's location secret. Kane would know about all their usual hiding places. That afternoon, while James was in town gathering information, Kane made his move. Lily was working in the garden behind their house when she heard horses approaching. She looked up to see 3 men riding toward her. Kane was not among them, but she recognized them from James's description. She dropped her gardening tools and ran for the house. The back door was only 20 feet away, but the riders were faster. One of them cut off her path to the house. Another rode around to block her other escape routes. The third man dismounted and walked toward her. "Easy there, miss," he said with a false smile. "We just want to talk." Lily backed against the garden fence. Her mind raced, trying to remember everything James had taught her about dangerous situations. "My husband will be back soon," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "No, he won't. Kane's keeping him busy in town right now." The man reached for her arm. Lily jerked away and screamed as loudly as she could. "Scream all you want," the man said. "Nobody's close enough to hear." But he was wrong. Mrs. Henderson from the neighboring farm had been visiting with another neighbor when they heard Lily's scream. Both women saw what was happening, and Mrs. Henderson's husband grabbed his rifle. The sound of gunshots from the direction of the Henderson farm made Kane's men look around nervously. "We need to go," one of the mounted men said. "People are coming." But the man on foot was determined to complete his mission. He lunged for Lily again. This time, she was ready. James had taught her basic self-defense. She grabbed a large rock from the garden border and hit the man in the head as hard as she could. He staggered backward, cursing and bleeding. Lily ran toward the sound of the approaching help. Mr. Henderson and 2 other neighbors arrived with rifles just as Kane's men were trying to regroup. "Let the woman go," Henderson shouted. Kane's men found themselves outnumbered and facing armed farmers who knew the terrain. They decided retreat was the better choice. "This isn't over," the bleeding man yelled as they rode away. When James returned an hour later, he found Lily surrounded by concerned neighbors. She was shaken but unhurt. "They tried to take you," he said, holding her close. "Mrs. Henderson and the others saved me. If they hadn't heard my scream..." James felt rage and gratitude in equal measure. Rage at Kane for threatening his wife. Gratitude to their neighbors for protecting her. 6 months after the Kane incident, Cedar Falls felt like a different place to James and Lily. The danger had brought the community together in ways that surprised everyone. Mrs. Henderson now stopped by regularly to share coffee and conversation with Lily. Other women in town had begun including her in their social gatherings. Even the children who once stared or ran away now waved when they saw her on the street. "It's amazing how much things have changed," Lily said one morning as she prepared breakfast. Through the kitchen window she could see their new office addition taking shape. Local men had volunteered their time to help build it. "You earned their respect," James said, reading through the morning mail. "The way you handled Kane's men, the cases you've helped solve. People see who you really are now. We earned it together." Their reputation as a detective team had spread throughout the territory. James received requests for help from towns as far as 100 miles away. Some cases they could handle through correspondence, others required travel. "Speaking of which," James said, holding up a letter, "we have an interesting request here." "What is it?" "The territorial governor wants to meet with us. He's heard about our methods and wants to discuss something called modern law enforcement techniques." Lily's eyes widened. "The governor. What does he want with us?" "Apparently he's interested in setting up a training program for lawmen, teaching them scientific investigation methods instead of just relying on witnesses and confessions. And he wants us to help develop it?" "That's what it sounds like." Lily sat down at the table, stunned. "A year ago, I was sitting in Mrs. Patterson's boarding house thinking my life was over. Now the territorial governor wants our expertise. You've come a long way. We've come a long way." The governor's letter was not their only exciting news. That afternoon they received visitors that made their success feel even more meaningful. A wagon pulled up outside their house. and Lily was surprised to see Mrs. Patterson climbing down from the driver's seat. Behind her came 3 other women, Lily recognized from the boarding house. "Mrs. Patterson," Lily called out, hurrying to greet her former landlady. "My dear Lily," Mrs. Patterson said, embracing her warmly. "Look at you. You're positively glowing with happiness." The other women gathered around, all talking at once about how well Lily looked and how proud they were of her achievements. "We've been following your cases in the territorial newspaper," said Mary, the woman who had married the farmer. "You're famous." "We wanted to see for ourselves how you were getting along," added Sarah, the store owner's wife. James joined them on the porch, and Lily proudly introduced him to her visitors. "So this is the man who saw what a treasure you are," Mrs. Patterson said, looking James up and down approvingly. "I'm the lucky one," James said simply. They spent the afternoon showing their guests around the property. The women were impressed by the house, the garden, and especially the new office addition. "You have your own detective agency," Sarah said admiringly. "I never imagined anything like this when we were all at the boarding house." "Neither did I," Lily admitted. "I thought I was just looking for someone who would tolerate me. I found so much more." As evening approached and their visitors prepared to leave, Mrs. Patterson pulled Lily aside for a private conversation. "I want you to know something," the older woman said. "I've placed a lot of women over the years, seen a lot of marriages. That started as business arrangements. Most of them work out well enough, but what you and James have found, that's special. How can you tell? The way you look at each other, the way you work together, the way you both light up when you talk about your shared goals. You found real partnership, dear, the kind that lasts a lifetime." "I never expected to be this happy," Lily said softly. "You deserve every bit of it." After their visitors left, James and Lily sat on their front porch as the sun set. It had become their favorite time of day, a chance to talk about their work, their plans, their life together. "I have something to tell you," James said. "What is it?" "I've been thinking about the governor's offer, about traveling around the territory to train other lawmen. It's a wonderful opportunity. It would mean being away from home for weeks at a time, staying in hotels, eating restaurant food, dealing with new people constantly." Lily was quiet for a moment. "Are you worried I wouldn't like that kind of life?" "I'm worried it might be hard on you. All the staring and questions from strangers. James, a year ago I would have been terrified of that. But now, I know who I am. I know what I'm capable of. I'm not afraid of people staring anymore." "You're sure?" "I'm sure. Besides, we'd be traveling together, right? Partners? Always partners." They talked late into the evening about their plans, the governor's training program, cases they wanted to solve, places they wanted to see. "There's something I want to discuss too," Lily said eventually. "What's that?" "I've been thinking about our living arrangements." James felt a flutter of nervousness. They still maintained separate bedrooms, though their relationship had grown much closer over the months. "What about them?" "We've been married almost a year, James. We love each other. We're true partners in every other way. Don't you think it's time we became husband and wife in the fullest sense?" James felt his heart speed up. "Are you sure that's what you want?" "I'm sure. The question is, what do you want?" "I want whatever makes you happy." "That's not what I asked." James took her hand in his. "I want to share everything with you. All of it. The work, the dreams, the quiet moments, the bed we sleep in. I want to be your husband completely." Then that's settled. They sat holding hands in the darkness, both of them feeling like they were on the verge of another new beginning. "We should probably go to the territorial capital soon to meet with the governor," James said. "How soon?" "Next week, if possible." "That works. I'll need time to prepare our case files to show him, examples of our methods, and I'll need to arrange for someone to cover my regular duties here." As they made practical plans, both of them were thinking about deeper changes, not just in their work, but in their marriage. They had found love gradually, built on respect and partnership. Now they were ready to complete their union. The next morning brought another surprise. Mayor Hopkins, who had not spoken to James since the Crawford affair, appeared at their door. "Morrison," he said stiffly. "Mrs. Morrison." "Mayor," James replied, cautiously, "I came to offer an apology and to discuss a proposition." James and Lily exchanged glances. This was unexpected. "Come in," Lily said graciously. Hopkins sat awkwardly in their living room, clearly uncomfortable. "I was wrong about the horse theft situation," he said finally. "I let politics cloud my judgment. You did the right thing, and I should have supported you instead of pressuring you." "Thank you for saying that," James said. "The truth is, this town is safer and more prosperous because of your work." "Both of your work," he added, nodding to Lily. "What's the proposition?" Lily asked. "The town council wants to offer you a contract, officially hire you both as a team, better pay, a budget for travel and equipment, recognition of your methods." James was stunned. "You want to hire us as a team, officially?" "The territorial governor isn't the only one who's heard about your success. We want to keep you here in Cedar Falls. Make this your base of operations. What about the people who disapprove of my wife working in law enforcement? They're outnumbered now by the people who approve. After the Kane incident, after all the cases you've solved together, most folks see the value of what you do." Lily felt tears in her eyes. A year ago, she had been unwanted and unwelcome. Now the town was offering to pay her for skills she never knew she had. "We'll need to think about it," James said. "Of course, take your time." After Hopkins left, James and Lily sat in their kitchen drinking coffee and trying to process all the changes in their lives. "From marriage of convenience to official detective partners," Lily mused. "Who would have believed it?" "I would have," James said. "Really? The first day I met you, I knew you were special. I just didn't know how special. What do you think we should do about the governor's offer and the town's offer?" "I think we should do both. Use Cedar Falls as our home base, but travel when needed to train other lawmen. Best of both worlds." "A year from now, where do you think we'll be?" Lily asked. "Wherever we are, we'll be together. That's all that matters to me." As they began planning their trip to meet the governor, both of them felt the satisfaction of a life well built. They had taken a chance on each other when no one else would. They had created something beautiful from the most unlikely beginning. James had found not just a wife, but a true partner who made him better at everything he did. Lily had found not just a husband, but a man who saw her worth when others saw only differences. Together they had built a love story that was uniquely their own, not the fairy tale romance of novels, but something more real and lasting. A partnership based on respect, shared goals, and genuine caring. They had proven that love could grow in the most unexpected places, that two people who seemed like misfits alone could be perfect together, and they were just getting started. As they prepared for their new adventures, they knew they would face them the same way they had faced everything else. Together, as equal partners, supporting each other through whatever challenges lay ahead.